Hey everybody, I'm Nikki. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have my TBR for February 2019 with a romance readathon from romancebooks.blog. I know they're doing some different prizes and such, but because I am actually sponsoring the readathon with one of my books, I am not trying to enter to win or anything. So I'm not trying to get a bingo, but I just wanted to take the tropes that I was interested in reading and find books that I wanted to read based off of the tropes. So I put together what I thought was going to just be maybe 3 or 4, and I ended up having 10. So stay tuned and I will get into which books I'll be reading for the month of February. So the very first book I'm going to read is for the category A Book Set in Paris. For this category, I'm reading Part-Time Lover by Lauren Blakely. Of course, Lauren Blakely is one of my all-time favorite romance authors, and she just has really good, fun characters. It's romantic comedy, and it's just very realistic. I really always enjoy. I really haven't read a book that I did not love by Lauren Blakely. So I don't know exactly what Part-Time Lover is about, but I do know it's set in Paris, and I do know it's the second book in a standalone series, the first book of which I have read, which was Wanderlust. And that book was also set in Paris. It was about an American female who goes over to Paris and she works for a company who does the chemistry type work involved in making perfume. And so she's like this smart lady, but she doesn't really know the language very well. So she ends up going and hiring the guy that her company assigns to her to help translate for her. And she actually meets him before she realizes that he's her translator. And of course, they have some little chemistry going on, and then they realize that, oh wait, we can't date each other because you kind of work for me. So anyway, things get going, and what I really loved about that story is, number one, I listened to the audiobook and it was narrated by Richard Armitage, who, if you don't know who that is Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit movies. And that voice with some gushy, sexy love scenes was just everything. So I know he's not the one narrating the second audiobook. It's also set in Paris for sure, and I know that in that first book, the way the setting in Paris was written, it was very immersive and it felt like I was there. It wasn't just the touristy things, it was like, it made a point of pointing out things that tourists never see or never notice while they are visiting Paris. So I really enjoyed that. So I feel like this one is going to have kind of that same vibe. And so I'm really looking forward to that. My next category that I will be reading for the month of February is Angsty Romance. And the book I'm reading for this one is actually an ARC that I will be getting from L.M. Halloran, Art of Sin. I'm not sure, but I think this book is going to end on a cliffhanger, which makes me a little nervous because I didn't put this book in Angsty Romance for nothing. So L.M. Halloran is probably the most angsty contemporary romance writer I think I've ever read in my life. I have personally dubbed her as the Queen of Angst. I've read almost every book she's written. I think there might be 1 or 2 that I still need to go back and read that I haven't yet, but fully intend to. Every single one of her books, they're so good, y'all. Literally cannot express how well written this author is. She just has this poetic way with words. She has this way of taking a situation and making it worse, and just when you think that it just can't get any worse, it does. And so then you're like pulling your hair out, like you just want something go right, but at the same time it's just so good. Like you cannot get so mad that you're just gonna put it down. Like you have to keep reading. And so I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is going to be an angsty romance, so I'm just getting myself ready for that, and I put that in the category. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't have a actual book cover for that, obviously. I think it's coming out around Valentine's Day for the cover reveal on that. So the next category that I will be reading is Enemies to Lovers, and for that I'm reading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I can't believe I haven't read this book yet. I've heard so many great things about this book, and it's been one that I have wanted to read for a really long time. Enemies to Lovers is one of my all-time favorite romance tropes. I love how there's just this built-in tension that always comes with enemies to lovers that you just don't get with another trope. So I'm really looking forward to this one. So the next category is an audiobook. For this one, I have a really extra special book picked out because this is a brand new release from Lauren Blakely, The Birthday Suit, and it has a full cast of narrating characters. So this is something that, especially for romance, is not really being done yet, and I think that Lauren Blakely is really kind of a trailblazer for the audio romance book game, so I'm just really looking forward to it. There's so many really good narrators that are a part of this cast. Almost all of them are award-winning and very well-known and respected, and I am so looking forward to that one. The next book is in the category of a sexy rom-com, and for that one I'm reading Muffin Top by Avery Flynn. I picked this one because I did read the first book in this series, so Muffin Top is actually book number 2, and book 1 was Butterface, and it was a good book. Obviously, Muffin Top is going to be a plus-size female representation. I'm really excited for that. I don't know exactly what the storyline will be. I'm going into it kind of blind just for the fact that I've already read the first one and for the fact that I like this particular author as well. So the next category I'm reading is a book with non-human characters. And the book I'm reading for that is 1 Second by Danica Dark. This is actually book number 7 in the 7 series. I've read all of the other books so far, and I actually read them like years ago. So this last and final book has been on my shelf for years. I don't know why I haven't read it because I really loved the rest of the series. Danica Dark is one of my all-time favorite authors, and she has written my single most favorite series of all time, which was the Marjorie series. This is like a whole different universe of characters. The world does have vampires and shifters and things of that nature, but it also has other new types of magical characters that Danica Dark created herself. I really literally cannot believe I've waited this long to read this last book in the series. The 7 series follows 7 brothers and the women that they fall in love with and mate with. This is the last one in the set. I don't remember exactly what the story is about, but I have no doubt it is going to be fantastic. The next category is a fairytale retelling, and for this one, I'm reading A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigitte Kammerer, and I've been looking forward to this book. It is one of my most anticipated books of 2019. I had this on pre-order, and it is being automatically delivered to me on release date, which probably by the time you guys are watching this has already happened, but I'm just so looking forward to this story because it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which is my all-time favorite fairy tale. I love Beauty and the Beast. It's just always, always, always been my favorite. The next category I obviously had to partake in, and that's a hero with an accent. And I love my accented heroes. I love listening to the audiobooks, especially for accented heroes. But this one is actually one that I will be reading the ebook for. So I'm reading Death Trap, which is book 3 in the Crossbreed series by Danica Dark, who I've already told you guys is one of my all-time favorite authors. This series is a spin-off of the Marjorie series, and one of the main characters, the main hero character, Christian Poe, was one of the biggest characters in the Marjorie series. So Christian Poe is a vampire, and he's Irish, and he's just hilarious, and he's so improper and unapologetic, and I just freaking love him. I would marry Christian Poe if he were a real life person. So the Crossbeat series follows a new character named Raven Black, and she is a cross between vampire and mage, I think. And she herself is pretty badass. So she's one of these characters who, like, she's kind of had to make it on her own. She's had to live on the streets and survive. And she's now been invited to be a part of this kind of ragtag team who hunts down Breed, which are the magical characters in this world. In her world, of course, there are humans, and then there are Breed. And Breed consists of the mage, the vampire, the shifters, the Gemini, and all those characters that she has. She has quite a few of them. There are more than that. Those are the ones I just remember off the top of my head the names of. So this story is kind of these underdog characters who've joined forces together, and they fight kind of the worst of the worst criminal of the Breed world. Such a good series. So the next category I'm reading is Alpha Billionaire Hero. And the book I'm reading for this one is Deal with the Devil by Megan March. And I picked it because I've been watching Lucifer on Netflix, and I just am in love with it. This story kind of had that Lucifer vibe. Of course, I had to pick it up because Megan March is a really good author as well. I just really cannot say enough about that Richer Than Sin series that I just finished. I hope this one is just as good. So the last category I'm reading is a futuristic romance. And for this one, I'm reading The Genius by Elin Peer, which is the 6th book in the Men of the North series. So where do I begin telling you about the Men of the North series? I effing love this series. It is so good. I can't even tell you just how perfectly written this series is. You have the Montlanders, which the Inmen call the Momsies, because the overall premise of this story is that we basically destroy the earth, and the only inhabitable parts of it are what used to be North America and Canada. And for the North America section, women outnumber men 25-1. And so even the men that are there, for reasons I won't go into, they're not very masculine or characteristic of alpha men by any means. And women just are not attracted to men the way that they used to be. Plus, the men that are there, most of them are bisexual, or they just don't care. And they have the use of sex bots to fulfill certain desires and needs. Getting married is like an ancient tradition that people just don't do anymore in this world. And there's just so much going on. I can't even begin to tell you all of it. So those are the people from the motherland, the Montlanders. Then there's the Inmen, the Men of the North. And these guys are the big, burly, masculine, strong, stubborn, manly alpha men that rule in the North. And in the North, men outnumber women 100,000-1. So take a minute to imagine that for a moment. You can imagine how the Northlanders would come to believe that the Inmen were these barbaric, criminal, violent savages. Things happen that end up bringing these characters together, the women from the motherland and men from the northlands. And you get these kind of polarized worldviews of these characters, and they have to somehow bring this together, and they clash, and they have to get to know each other and just live with it until they start to actually get to know each other as people and start kind of getting a better understanding of why they feel certain ways. And it's just mind-blowing to me. I can't tell you how well the psychology in this story just lines up. I can't tell you how much I love this series. So book number 6 has a character that we've already been introduced to this character. She was sort of this child prodigy. She graduated high school super early, and she was kind of a student teacher when she was 16 when they sent some kids to the Northlands to kind of try to integrate the motherland children with the Inman children. And when she left there to go to college, her kind of goal was to study engineering and machinery and such. And so this book starts kind of a little bit forward from the rest of the books. I think it jumps ahead a couple of years where she's finished college and now she works for a factory that builds these sex bots. And so her job is kind of a quality assurance, like quality control. And so she's in this lab one day when a character she knew from the north comes in and he doesn't recognize her. He mistakes her as one of the sex bots. And so, of course, that's when things go awry and mayhem ensues and things come together. And I cannot wait to read this story. This book is going to be my reward for getting through the rest of this TBR list. Anyway, that's all I have for right now. If you want to know the book I have in this readathon as a sponsor book, it's my book, Big Man Blue, for the Enemies to Lovers category. The story is a cowboy romance, enemies to lovers, obviously. It's older woman, younger man. It's a second chance romance, a return to hometown, a best friend's brother. There's so many tropes wrapped up into this book, but what I have heard from the people who've read this book is that it's very emotional. There are some conflict that results from miscommunication, but it's one of those things where the miscommunication is not what it seems to be. So one of the things I like to do in my books is kind of a plot twist where throughout the story I leave little pieces here and there that will lead you to believe that one thing is happening, and really when you get to the end and all is revealed and you discover that it was something completely different altogether. And so if you're interested in reading it, it's on Amazon, iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and Kobo. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments if you're participating in the romance readathon. If you are, which books are you going to read? What is your TBR for that? What are you reading for this month? Have you read any of the books I talked about, or are you interested in reading any of them? Maybe we can read them together. Follow me on Goodreads. I'll have that link too in the comments down below. I hope you guys have a great February. Happy reading, and I will talk to you guys soon.